that capitalism will always remain unconquerable so long as we think that capitalism will always be unconquerable. And that's not, of course, to say that we can simply wish capitalism away. It is instead to understand that capitalism lives and capitalism breathes off despair. It survives and it thrives off the notion that nothing can change. That things will be the same forever. That the crazy, profit-driven system that we live under, that leads to poverty and war, environmental degradation and oppression, is the best thing that we can hope for. That this is the best that we can do. But I believe that we are entering a period where not only can we imagine the end of capitalism, I think that we're living in a period now when we must imagine the end of capitalism. We live in a world, and this will be lost on no one, that is fast heating up. A world where extreme weather is becoming more and more prevalent. A world where vast swathes of our cities, Belfast, notably for myself, are under threat of flooding, real threat of flooding, and of course in other parts of the world that is much, much worse and is already happening because the ice caps are melting and the seas are rising. A world where species extinction is at such a rate that we have entered into a new geological age within ecological equilibrium of our very planet. We live in a world where climate change is becoming the key issue facing our planet, and that's why I'm glad to see that it is a key issue at the heart of this year's conference and this year's programme. Because this question is intersecting with deep poverty and inequality, where a tiny number of people control the world's wealth and the rest of us are left behind. We know we have enough money in the world to help feed and clothe and house people, but capitalism is not a system that determines things on the basis of need. When you hear that a food store has closed in your area, is it because people have stopped needing food? When you hear that a housing market has crashed, is it because people don't need houses anymore? Of course it isn't. People need all of these things and they need them all of the time. But for capitalism, the question is never need. It is profit. The Moses and the prophets of this system, as Karl Marx once said. We live right here in a country of great wealth. Why is it that our politicians tell us that the economy has never been better, yet we still have homeless people on our streets? Why is it that corporations are saving billions in tax fraud here, but we have people dying without even their dignity in overcrowded hospitals on waiting beds? Why is it that workers are having to take strike action? The nurses in the south, and next month the workers in the north, and the nurses in the north. The strikers last year, and the CWU workers in the north this year. Why can't these workers get a decent wage if we're told by our politicians that we have so much money in this country? And tell me this as well. If the establishment is right that there is so much money in this country and that the economy is doing so well, then why do we have to house migrants in rotten detention centres? Why do we allow the far-right bigots to claim that they are the source of our ills, when we all know full well that the problems in our society come from those at the top, not those at the bottom? And least of all, our migrant brothers and sisters, and shame on those who say otherwise. The reason that all of this takes place is because we live in a system where the logic of capital dictates all. And the politicians and the state refuse to challenge that logic. But hope remains. One of the most exciting and remarkable features of politics in the last year has been the extraordinary emergence of mass struggles around the world on a colossal scale. Between 1 and 2 million people marched in Hong Kong recently out of a total population of 7 million people. In Lebanon, an estimated 1 million people took to the streets out of a national population of only 6 million. In Chile, there was something like 1 million people on the streets of Santiago a few weeks ago out of a population of 18 million people. And around 1.1 million people demonstrated earlier this year in Puerto Rico. And the list goes on. Of course, there are different participating factors in each of those struggles. But what I think leads each of them is clearly poverty and inequality and the desire for a better life. And when we see protests of this size around the world, and when we consider the issues like climate change that we face, then we have to know that what I said at the beginning is true, that now we have to consider a world without capitalism. To reimagine a future with socialism. And by socialism, of course, we don't mean dictatorship or the Soviet Union. If the economy is owned by the state, but the workers, the ordinary people, have no real say in the running of that state, then as James Conley once said, that's not socialism, that's state capitalism. Socialism for us means a massive redistribution of wealth. But it also means a massive redistribution of democracy. There can be no socialism without democracy. There can be no true democracy without socialism. So as long as the rich and the powerful have more influence over politics than me and you in this room, then a vote every 4 years is not real democracy. And socialism is not just about economics either. It's about understanding that the many oppressions that we face are linked to a system that sets out to divide and to commodify us. Socialism means fighting the scourge of racism. Socialism means fighting for liberation for women. Socialism means bringing down the border, smashing the binaries, and fighting for an end to division. And as someone once said, a revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth fighting for. And as John Gray just said in a previous meeting, that he told us to remember it, and I'd like to point out to John Gray that I did remember it, a revolution without humour is one that would bore us all to death. And I think we have to be clear. Some governments are better than others, of course, and we hope that Jeremy Corbyn seriously beats Boris Johnson in a couple of weeks. Some elected reps are better than others, and we're going to hear from incredible elected rep in just a few minutes. We hope that people like Kelly Sweeney, like Jerry Carroll, like Sean Harkin, and Cinnamon Blackmore are elected as socialists in the next few weeks for People Before Profit. More socialist reps. God, do we need more socialist reps? That is the answer. But we also have to be clear that socialism is not just about this policy or that policy or having a slightly better government. Socialism will require a massive challenge against this system. As the American socialist Eugene Debs once said, if anyone can give you your freedom, that means they can also take it away. There is no one who can liberate us but ourselves, organized as a collective with the power of our own past behind us. And when we fight, and when we struggle together, then anything is possible. I want to finish up with a quote from Marx that I think says something about the possibilities that are before us in the context of struggles ahead when all fixed, fast-frozen relationships relations, with their train of ancient and variable prejudices and opinions are swept away. All new formed ones become antiquated before they can ossify. All that is solid melts into air. All that is holy is profaned. And man is at last compelled to face with sober senses his real conditions of life and his relations with his kind. Thank you.
Okay, comrades, thanks very much, Fiona, that was excellent. One of the chief features of